Hello guests, I'm the host, and welcome to the Silent Lounge. I saw Markiplier's new movie, Iron Lung, last weekend, and I thought it was pretty good. The movie was so good that I decided to play the indie game it was based on. If you'd like to watch me play it for the first time, a link will be included in the description below. After playing the indie game and then watching Iron Lung for the second time, I realized that Iron Lung is quite simply the best video game adaptation we have for a horror game. This movie is a better adaptation than Silent Hill, Resident Evil, and even Five Nights at Freddy's. Ironically, these are all games Markiplier has played on his channel, yet he chose to adapt an indie game that not many people heard of. I want to preface this video by saying, yes, I am a Markiplier fan. If it weren't for Markiplier, I wouldn't be here making videos. Markiplier is a huge inspiration for many content creators, and it makes me happy to see that he made his own movie with total creative control. Am I biased towards Markiplier? It's hard not to be when someone has had such a huge impact on your life. For the sake of this video, I will set aside my bias and discuss what the movie does right and what it fails to do. Technically, you could call this video a review for both the game and the movie, but either way, I want to share my thoughts on this movie and why I believe it is the best video game movie adaptation we have. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you enjoyed your stay at the Silent Lounge. Iron Lung is an indie game developed by David Szymanski and was released on March 9, 2022. The premise of Iron Lung is that an event called the Quiet Rapture caused every habitable planet and star to disappear, leaving behind space stations and asteroids. The population on the remaining space stations began to dwindle, and the search for answers became desperate. The discovery of blood oceans on a barren moon has raised more questions about the Quiet Rapture and led to deadly oceanic expeditions. You play as a convict who is tasked with taking X-ray photos in specific locations in the depths of the blood oceans. You are in a submarine called the Iron Lung, or SM-13. The gameplay is very minimalistic as you spend the entire game in a small room pushing buttons. Your only window to the outside world is an X-ray camera that can only be accessed near the back of the ship. After taking a photo, the camera needs a few seconds to cool down before it can be used again. Iron Lung isn't a jump scare type of game. It's actually a slow burn that toys with your mind. As you're completing tasks, strange anomalies begin happening to you, like noises outside the submarine or pipes hissing steam randomly. So that's another thing I don't really know about. I don't know what the countdown really is. Really? You frickin' Valve? That actually scared me. Okay. Guys, I think... Whoa. Whoa. Something hit me, and I don't like it. I hope that's not like... I hope I'm not losing oxygen. Am I supposed to like turn the wheel or something? Oh, it's dripping blood. That's great. Maybe a little bit higher than 650. Whoa! Oh! Oh! Oh shit! Oh! What the hell? I'm trying to put this shit out! Iron Lung is a relatively short game that can be finished in an hour, yet it keeps you on the edge of your seat and makes the experience feel dreadful, but in a good way. You are alone in a cramped submarine with a dwindling oxygen supply, and your only guides to your surroundings are a compass, a map, and an X-ray camera. So, how well does the film adapt the game? Iron Lung, the movie, opens with a voice monologuing about the Quiet Rapture, and then we see the SM-13 being lowered into the blood ocean. I will say the opening of this movie gets you up to speed right away with the world building and sets up the atmosphere. There are no studio logos that would appear in the first couple of minutes of the movie, which I honestly appreciate. We are then introduced to the convict, who is played by none other than Markiplier himself. At first, it was hard for me to see him as the character and not as his YouTuber persona. Markiplier's performance definitely improved as the movie progressed, and I was able to see him as the character. So, we learned that the convict took a plea deal with the COI, or the Consolidation of Iron, that if he went down into the blood ocean and took photos, he would earn his freedom. The entire movie takes place inside the Iron Lung, and it is just as small and cramped as it was in the game. They also updated the control panel to use a dial to rotate the ship instead of buttons, which is a nice change that makes the control panel feel more realistic. The panel that takes the X-ray photos was also masterfully recreated and is practically one-to-one with its video game counterpart. The first 10 minutes of the film perfectly set up the world building of Iron Lung, successfully introduced the audience to the main protagonist without giving away too much information, and faithfully recreate elements from the game that fans will recognize. Like the game, the film takes its time in crafting tension and unease. Personally, I think the slow burn in Iron Lung was effective in creating dread and a sense of helplessness that I felt while I was playing the game for the first time. I also believe it helped make the second half of the film more intense and fast-paced, which, again, is what I also felt when I played the game. Ironically, it takes less time to beat Iron Lung than it does to watch the movie. In the game, there was not much of a story. It was more of an interesting premise with some added lore to deepen the world building. The movie actually expands on the world building, introduces new characters, and adds a really compelling story that was thought-provoking at times. We didn't get a sense of human desperation for survival in the game, but in the movie, it's palpable. Overall, the movie does a great job adapting the source material and expanding on it with a compelling story. This will be the spoiler section of the video. If you plan to see Iron Lung, here is a timestamp to skip to the next section of the video. In the movie, we learn about a place called Eden. The convict, known as Simon, was a citizen of Eden. Eden is one of the largest man-made space stations and is home to the last living tree. The people of Eden are at war with the COI. According to the terminal in the game, the Consolidation of Iron, or COI, is a brotherhood of 3 space stations and 2 spacecraft, found on the principle of collectivism and ruled by the popular vote of all citizens, numbering 257 at the time of the century. Its name comes from the iron and steel materials its 2 main stations are constructed from, and the principle of unity and togetherness in the face of menace from other surrounding states, such as Eden. So, Simon is responsible for the destruction of Filament Station, one of the space stations under the COI, killing 62 people. Simon's character arc throughout the film is beautiful. He starts as a character who believes he is a victim of his circumstances. He doesn't believe he deserves the punishment he is given, and wants nothing more than to be free. When Simon accidentally radiates 3 people with the submarine's camera, he initially shifts blame to Ava, the captain of the COI, for not telling him the camera was a high-powered X-ray. Later, he apologizes for his actions, but it's out of guilt and fear that Ava will not hold her end of the agreement. The whole movie is Simon desperately fighting to live. It's not about Simon doing this for the greater good of humanity. Simon is pessimistic about the survival of the human race and doesn't see the point in these deep dive explorations. Markiplier's performance genuinely shines as a man desperate to live and is fearful of the unknown that lies under the ocean of blood. What makes his character relatable is the fact that he is afraid of dying. He's not an action hero who says cheesy one-liners. Simon is simply a coward, and Mark's performance near the second half of the film highlights that on a greater scale. One thing that stood out to me was the acting of the supporting actors. Ava is the commander of the COI and is desperate for answers. The COI lacks the manpower or resources to send multiple subs to investigate the blood ocean. That's why they sent Simon, a convicted felon, to go down there in the first place. The COI made a deal with Simon, but the information they withheld from him was the fact they had sent other prisoners down in other parts of the Barren Moon to investigate. Caroline Rose Kaplan, who portrays Ava in the movie, did an incredible job of emphasizing how serious the mission is to the survival of humanity. Her performance anchored Simon's character, which made their dynamic entertaining to watch. Simon is pessimistic because he feels abandoned by his brothers of Eden, while Ava reminds Simon that this mission is bigger than anything else, which leads to Simon's character arc in the movie. During the last act of the film, Ava makes a new deal with Simon to retrieve the black box data from SM-8. If Simon retrieves the data in the black box, he will have his freedom. Unfortunately, Ava can't hold her end of the agreement as she is attacked by the Blood Ocean monster. Ava pleads to Simon to get the black box and protect it at all costs. She apologizes for not being able to keep her end of the deal and says that Simon deserved his freedom. That was the moment that Simon decided to put the mission first and retrieve the black box so that there could be hope for humanity. Simon sacrifices himself to kill the monster by imploding the SM-13, and the black box survives the implosion, hinting at hope for humanity. The most common criticism that Iron Lung gets is the slow pacing in the first half of the movie. Surprisingly, I did not have an issue with the pacing. I actually thought it made the claustrophobic tension more palpable. My issue is the last 20 minutes of the movie where it uses shaky cam, which in action movies is okay, but the way it's used here looks jarring compared to how the rest of the movie was shot. I also couldn't hear the voices because there was so much going on in the movie that I couldn't tell who was talking. I had problems determining if the voices were Ava's or the Phantom's. Other than that, I really didn't have too many issues with the movie. Iron Lung had a budget of $3 million, and as of writing, has grossed nearly 10 times that amount. For a movie that didn't have multiple studios attached to it, little to no marketing, and a small cast with no A-listers, that is incredible. People often compare how much money a movie made, and when they see a box office number of $28 million, they think that is nothing compared to Avatar or Avengers Endgame. What they fail to realize is that it's not about how much money a movie made, but how profitable the movie is against its budget. If Avengers Doomsday makes $1 billion at the box office against a $500 million budget, it just barely managed to break even, which is not good for studios. A movie that earns 10 times its budget back in the first weekend is extremely profitable and successful. Markiplier directed, wrote, and starred in his own movie, and it wasn't a vanity project to showcase his talent. Markiplier genuinely loves the source material and the art of filmmaking, and it truly shows in this movie. Instead of pitching the idea to Warner Brothers or Paramount Pictures, he financed his own movie and distributed it to theaters. I'm not saying this as a fan of his content, I'm saying this as someone who has watched a lot of dogshit movies that couldn't care less about the audience. Iron Lung is simply the best video game adaptation we have for a video game movie. Sure, Sonic the Hedgehog and the Super Mario Bros. Movies are up there, but for people who play survival horror and indie horror games, this movie is the best adaptation, period. Not only does it accurately depict what it's like to play the game and faithfully recreate the atmosphere and mood, it also expands on the story. The story was the missing element in the game, and this movie perfectly creates a compelling narrative with a protagonist that you can't help but root for. Simon is a relatable character. He is not a badass who is invincible. He is a coward who bleeds, a person who cries when he thinks he's going to die. That is a character I can connect to, and that is what many films are missing nowadays. Anyway, that's all I have for today's video. Do you think Iron Lung is a good video game movie adaptation? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like and subscribe if you enjoyed your stay at the Silent Lounge.